El Sobrino problem. I forced my sister to parent her thief sons, and it cost her everything. My shed was supposed to be a safe spot for my hustle, a few $100s in recycling cans. I never imagined it would become the flashpoint for an all-out war with my own sister. When I saw the surveillance footage of my nephews, Miguel, the ringleader, and his younger brothers smashing the lock and stealing from me, I knew this wasn't just kid trouble. It was a crisis of enablement. Their parents, Sofia and Ramón, called me heartless for demanding my money back, not realizing that I wasn't just after $200. I was after justice. The ultimatum I gave them, pay up or I call the police, tore our family apart. But the real hell started after the arrests, when Miguel, furious and unhinged, decided to take his revenge by breaking into my home with a hammer.
My sister, Sofia, enables her kids' criminal behavior. Now, my 3 nephews are basically running wild and disrespecting the entire neighborhood. I got home from my shift at the garage and immediately noticed the busted door on my shed and the broken padlock I used to secure it. Inside, I found that not only were nearly $200 worth of aluminum cans missing, cans I'd been saving for recycling, but also several tools, a heavy-duty machete, gardening shears, a steel rake, 2 shovels, a cheap drill, an electric hedge trimmer, a small chainsaw, and a 2-gallon gas can. My security camera, which I had installed after their última travesura, confirmed my suspicion. My 3 nephews had broken in, with the eldest, Miguel, smashing the lock with a hammer and taking the items while skipping school. When I called my sister, Sofia, and her husband, Ramón, they flat out denied it until I drove over and showed them the video footage. Furious, they returned my tools, minus the gas in the can, but the cans were gone, the boys having already spent to nearly $200 on video games and junk food. I added the broken padlock to the tally and told Sofia she owed me over $200, which caused them to shift their anger from their sons to me, calling me heartless, sin corazón, for demanding money back when they had a mortgage and 3 kids. I gave them an ultimatum: pay me back the $200 in 2 days, or I would go to the police and press charges for larceny and destruction of property, then left when they told me to get out. They harassed me by phone, saying I knew they were broke after the holidays, but when I called them the next morning to suggest a repayment plan, they refused, claiming it was my fault for tempting their boys with the money. Me estaban volviendo loco. I told them I was done, but the final straw came when Miguel sent me a picture of himself holding a soda can and flipping me off. I drove straight to the police station, filed a report, gave them the broken lock, the video footage of the multiple trips the boys made to empty the shed, and the screenshot of the middle finger photo. I mentioned my concern about the machete, but the police classified it as a tool, given the other gardening equipment they took, and the boys are now in serious trouble for trespassing, larceny, and harassment. I knew my phone would be going crazy when the police showed up at their house, but I meant what I said. I've since replaced the lock and moved the machete indoors. My neighbors confirmed cans have been going missing for months, and my relatives, my parents, Dios and Diaz, are all fed up with Sofia and Ramón, telling me, "Good for you," because those boys had also stolen from them. Update 2. That Saturday, the police arrived with a warrant and were forced to be let in by Sofia and Ramón. A neighbor witnessed the arrest, reporting that all 3 nephews immediately went from cocky mocosos to crying like babies when they were put in handcuffs.
The boys were charged with larceny, willful destruction of property, vandalism, and harassment. And the police took it seriously because of the prior complaints about missing cans in the area. Sofia and Ramón showed up at my house, but I refused to open the door, yelling through the screen that this was the price for being enablers who wouldn't hold their children accountable. They screamed and pounded until I threatened to call the police on them, and they finally left. I decided to save all their messages because I was going to take them to small claims court, realizing the parents needed a lesson just as much as the kids. Update 3. This was anticlimactic. I filed a small claims lawsuit asking for $500 for the cans, the locks, court filing fees, and emotional damages for the harassment.
a case my lawyer friend assured me was very strong with all the video evidence and texts. When Sofia and Ramón were served the papers, they freaked out, and I told them this was the price for not parenting their kids. The next evening, they showed up at my house while I had friends over, and I kept the screen door shut, but they admitted they had effed up and wanted to make peace. Ramón slid an envelope through the crack in the door containing $500 in $50 bills from his private savings. He promised they would properly punish the boys and pleaded for leniency on the criminal charges. I told them I was only pushing for community service, which was lenient, and they agreed to cooperate. I later found out from my parents that they had threatened to disown Sofia if she and Ramón didn't get their act together. I dropped the lawsuit, knowing the boys were still going to court, but were now finally getting the parenting they should have had long ago. Update 4. The judge fast-tracked the case, since the parents had repaid me, and the boys got about 100 hours of community service picking up trash in local parks under a director who sounded like a retired drill sergeant. No fun for them.
My eldest nephew, Miguel, constantly defied authority and blamed me for his predicament. His father, Ramón, even had to be called over just to make the boy pick up a rake. My 2 younger nephews soon realized how crazy and entitled Miguel was and stopped following his lead. Miguel's anger eventually reached a peak. He snuck out in the middle of the night and assaulted my house with a pair of his dad's claw hammers. He heavily damaged the shed door while attempting to smash the new lock, but it held. I woke up, looked out the window, and called the police. He saw my lights and chucked one of the hammers through my bedroom window, covering the floor with broken glass. He then started beating on my back door with the remaining hammer, breaking the knob and the door window, but he took off after I yelled that the police were on their way. My camera's night vision showed it was him wearing his school hoodie, and the hammer he threw had his fingerprints on it from his first arrest. This time, his parents did nothing to protect him, and Miguel was taken away screaming that it was all my fault. He went through a mental evaluation and was found to be potentially bipolar, a diagnosis he later used to excuse everything. He did a month in juvenile hall, got medicated, and pleaded guilty in exchange for more community service, mandatory counseling, and probation. Ramón personally came to my house and replaced the broken window and back door. My 2 younger nephews later dropped by on their own in July to sincerely apologize, asking if we could start over. I said we could, but they had to earn back my trust, which they happily agreed to. Miguel's anger didn't stop. He later slashed the tires on his youngest brother's new mountain bike with a kitchen knife. So, I bought new tires and fixed the bike myself. He ran away for 3 days after leaving a goodbye letter blaming me and his bipolar. He came back looking beat up but wouldn't talk about it. He continues to spend his days mostly in his room when not at school or counseling. He finished his community service, but his probation lasts until he is 18. My parents decided they don't want to see Miguel at Thanksgiving or Christmas Eve due to his behavior, leading Sofia and Ramón to threaten to boycott the holidays if he couldn't come. Update 5. Sofia and Ramón went to Ramón's parents for Thanksgiving. After a long talk where I backed them on the need for Miguel not to be totally excluded, my parents ultimately let him come to Christmas Eve. To help his mental state, I went out and bought Miguel a used metallic green mountain bike for $30 and a used backpack for $5 to replace the items stolen when he ran away. The gifts had the intended effect. I was no longer the object of his rage.
At the Christmas Eve party, Sofia and Ramón forced Miguel to apologize sincerely. He admitted it was his fault he was arrested, that he stole, and that he damaged my property. We shook hands. The good feelings didn't last long. On New Year's, Miguel stole a bottle of champagne from his parents and chugged it while locked in the bathroom. His brothers then confessed that Miguel had a hidden stash of alcohol in the crawl space under the house, which he'd been stealing and selling to neighborhood kids for some time. The 2 younger nephews confessed that they would only steal 1 beer at a time or pour small amounts of hard alcohol from its original bottle into another container, little by little. Then came the real bomb. They had been sneaking into other people's houses across the neighborhood and doing the same thing. Their method was terrifyingly effective. They looked for unlocked doors or windows, and the youngest, being the smallest,
would crawl through a window and unlock the door to let his brothers in, making sure not to take anything large so they could come back multiple times without suspicion. After the arrests last year, they realized they hated being thieves and were just following Miguel's lead. Of course, the boys were in trouble for not admitting any of this earlier. The news, despite attempts to keep it quiet, still got around, confirming some neighbors' suspicions about the recent petty thefts. Given how good they were at being gatos ladrones, cat burglars, you'd think they would have been more careful about cameras. But I guess they figured old Uncle Mateo would never get any. After they were exposed, a few of our neighbors also installed cameras. The punishment for the younger boy's new confession was minor, given everything else that had happened. For Miguel, it was redundant, as he was still dealing with probation from the champagne incident. Ramón started giving Miguel lots of mint gum to chew to help with the alcohol cravings, which was what Ramón used to help curb his own drinking habit years ago. It seemed to help a little. Ramón also started keeping all his own liquor locked in a padlocked fridge in the garage. He suspects Miguel tried to get into it once. Things seemed to stabilize until Miguel got into a fight at school in February. He didn't start it, but another kid picked on him until the fists started flying. Miguel got his 2 front teeth knocked out when the bully slammed his face into a locker. My younger nephews confessed the reason. Before his arrest, Miguel was a textbook bully at school. He stole from other kids, targeted the small and weak, and had used a small knife to stab bike tires on more than one occasion. The older brother of one of Miguel's past victims went after him and delivered some street justice. Both of Miguel's top front teeth were knocked out, and his nose was broken. He had to be rushed to the hospital. An oral surgeon had to put his teeth back in, requiring special braces, and his nose had to be reset. The poor kid didn't want to be seen by anyone for months. No one pressed charges. The other parents paid at least half the cost of Miguel's dental and nasal treatments through their insurance. They just wanted to avoid a lawsuit. Sofia and Ramón's health insurance was terrible and left them with a high copay. They didn't file anything, not wanting to be back in court. I decided to contribute. I still had the $500 in cash Ramón gave me to drop the small claim suit, and I returned it to them to help ease the cost. After the incident, I think they may have had no savings left. When I saw Miguel, his face was swollen and his front teeth were wired in place. He refused to return to school, finishing his remaining lessons online with a school-provided laptop. The boy who beat him up only got a 2-week suspension. I was upset about the severity, but I knew this only happened because my nephew was a bully. What goes around eventually comes around, even in San Antonio. It's summer now, and Miguel is still a shut-in. He only goes out for an hour or 2 on his bike. He's mostly stoically silent these days, a boy of few words. Sofia and Ramón are talking about moving closer to Ramón's parents after Miguel's probation ends. I don't blame them. The whole neighborhood essentially hates them now. It will likely take them another year or so to save up for the move. I've been spending more time with my 2 younger nephews. They're doing much better, are more respectful, and are welcome in my home again. We watch movies and play games. They've become good kids again and are trying to make up for their mistakes. On the rare occasion I see Miguel, he isn't cold to me anymore. He even brought his bike to me for minor repairs once. I know he wants to be far away from here when he turns 18. We suggested trade school, and he's not against the idea. Beyond that, I've been doing my best not to overstep as an uncle. That's it. After all this time, I may have nothing more to write here.
It took a lawsuit, police reports, a few broken windows, and a whole lot of tough love. But things are finally starting to settle here on my rancho. My nephews are on a better path, my sister and Ramón are actually parenting, and I've got my peace back. It wasn't easy, and it certainly wasn't cheap, but I hope they all learned their lesson, and maybe that's worth more than the $500. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to my whole saga. I'm curious, what would you have done differently when my nephews first broke into the shed? Let me know in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see what happens next in the neighborhood.